Elmwood Park Public Library BGPP meeting. The time is now 4:04. I will call to order and roll. Trustee Belundis.
Here.
Trustee Fosco.
Here.
Trustee Segura here. All right, we'll move to public comment. Just a reminder, you're limited to 3 minutes. State your name, the town where you're from, and try to refrain from calling out individuals specifically. First, we have Sarah Lindsay.
Hey everyone. I'm Sarah Lindsay. I live here in Elmwood Park. I'm the deputy editor of the Elmwood Park Advocate. And I'm here tonight because the Elmwood Park Library is attempting to silence our community's voice. For months, we've hosted community conversations right here at the library, open, respectful gatherings where neighbors came together to talk about the issues that matter to them. These meetings have created a sense of belonging, dialogue, and civic pride, exactly what a library is meant for. Now the library wants to charge us $100 to continue meeting here. And let me be clear, to date, we can find no evidence that any other group has paid a penny to meet in this space, this public space. This interpretation of the policy only occurred after our meetings began. That's not neutrality, that's viewpoint discrimination. It's censorship based on who we are and what we talk about. What makes this even more troubling is that several members of this board have attended our meetings, whether in good faith or simply to monitor us, but by all accounts have had a very pleasant time and I think enjoyed themselves in some cases. They saw firsthand that our gatherings are positive, respectful, and community focused. There was no hostility, only neighbors coming together to talk about how to make Elmwood Park better. And yet, after witnessing all that, this board has moved to penalize us. The library's director, Michael Consiglio, even liked a Facebook comment that called our group nothing but trash trying to push left-wing agenda. This is not professional conduct, it's prejudice, and it exposes exactly why this sudden fee and resistance exists. Fear of accountability and fear of community members organizing around ideas you cannot control. Let's just be honest, the library board, and specifically Chris Pesco, are afraid that the people of this village might actually be informed. They know that when residents have access to real information, they start asking questions. They lose the power to manipulate, mislead, and abuse their authority. That is the fear that is driving every bit of this behavior. We pay taxes here. This library belongs to the people of Elmwood Park, not a board or director who wants to control speech and limit who feels welcome in this space. And now I just want to take a moment to say how proud and impressed I am by the excellent journalism of our editor-in-chief, Kevin Gottstola. His work has set the standard for integrity, fairness, and courage in local reporting, and it's been an honor to support that as part of the Advocate. If the library's leadership and our elected officials didn't behave this way, we would not have to report on it. Journalism is not harassment, it's accountability. When public officials act in the public's name, the public has every right to ask questions and tell the truth about what is happening. As deputy editor, I am deeply proud of what we've built and of the trust, connection, and courage these meetings have inspired among our neighbors. The board's attempt to silence that isn't just wrong, it's a violation of our First Amendment rights. This is not about a fee. It's about free speech, and you all know that. The library's leadership should be ashamed of this behavior. Attempts to suppress open dialogue will not preserve your power. It will end it. We will not be silenced. Elmwood Park Advocate will continue because the people of Elmwood Park deserve to be heard. Thanks.
Next, we have Jack Bauer.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Earlier this year, the Reaching Across Illinois Library System asked law firm Ansel Glink to prepare an FAQ on meeting room use. I emailed it to the trustees this morning because it directly addresses these issues. In it, the attorneys were asked, are you allowed to charge groups to use a meeting room? Their answer was yes. The library can charge a group to use a meeting room so long as that fee is imposed equally on all groups using that particular space. So the question is simple. Has the Elmwood Park Public Library charged any other group before this to use the Ferentino room during Director Consiglio's tenure? The answer, as far as the record shows, is no. Before this September, every group using the Ferentino room used it free of charge without being asked for proof of nonprofit status, including some for-profit businesses. That is not equal treatment. The attorneys were also asked, is it possible to deny a group a space, and if so, what can be the legal reason? Their answer, if that decision is based on the viewpoint of the group or the expected content of their speech, then denial of use would likely violate the First Amendment. Director Consiglio admitted he was influenced by complaints from unnamed community members, and even liked the Facebook comment calling the advocate trash, pushing a left-wing agenda. He also drafted a new meeting room policy that made his intentions clear: to give himself power to deny access to anyone whose speech he didn't like, even for things said outside the library. That draft exposed a desire to police residents' speech and decide which viewpoints are acceptable in a public building. You can verify all of this yourself from the Elmwood Park Advocates newsletter. It's textbook viewpoint discrimination, exactly what the law forbids, and it lays bare the motive behind this unequal treatment that followed. Now the board is considering amending the meeting room policy, but changing the policy after the fact does not fix the discrimination that happened before. Director Consiglio should not have singled out the advocate under the library's current practices, and the timing of this change speaks for itself. It seems intended not to promote fairness, but to save face and avoid admitting a mistake was made. Adopting this restrictive policy weakens what the library offers to Elmwood Park. It limits access to a public resource residents already pay for just to sloppily cover up a mistake. The fair and responsible choice is to overturn the director's decision, restore equal access, and reaffirm the library's commitment against censorship and discrimination. Thank you.
Julia Bell.
Good afternoon. I'm Julia Bell. I've been a resident here for 24 years. And to be clear, I wanted to speak tonight because I'm not suggesting that you're contemplating barring any group from using the space. I'm speaking because you're contemplating now a black and white policy of no groups who could benefit this community but do not have 5013 status will be allowed to use the room. And of course, we know at the end of the day that will make it hard for many groups to access this space. I can't stop thinking about what I read and what I sent you an email that was on a public website in the spring when some of you were running for re-election. And the words that you wrote or someone wrote for you were really lovely. And I'm just wondering, were those just platitudes? When Alice Belunda said she was dedicated to ensuring the library remains a vibrant, inclusive, and welcoming space for all, and her unique perspective as an immigrant parent and grandparent enhances her role on the board, allowing her to advocate effectively for the diverse needs of the community. If this is true, I just wonder what you would say if someone said, I want to teach a class, an English class, for some of our Polish neighbors to improve their Polish speaking or their English speaking skills. But why would they do it when that teacher who would volunteer her time has to pay a fee? SK, I think you're a terrific person. And I remember that you wrote that you wanted to ensure the library remained a welcoming space where everyone felt safe, comfortable, valued, and respected. If that's true, I'm going to ask you to vote no to this proposed policy. Because what would you say to someone who came to you and said, I really wanted to start a mom's group or a dad's group, because I know you care about that, or a single mom's group or a single dad's group? They'll have to pay. Why would they want to pursue space here. Pete, you and I have talked. I know you didn't have a bio on the board, but I know you deeply care about Elmwood Park and have donated countless hours, especially to youth sports. When we last talked, you said the moms group will still be able to use the room. Under this proposal, they won't. It's going to be black or white. If you have the documentation, you can use the room without a fee, and if you don't, you'll be charged. A lot of groups aren't going to have the $100. And I just hate, again, to see the door closed to those groups. Julie, excuse me, use your name. Your last name means safety, doesn't it?
Yes.
You had a beautiful website that you believe that libraries play an essential role in promoting literacy, lifelong learning, and community connection, and you aim to ensure the library continues to be a safe, welcoming, and inclusive space for all. If this is true, I'm going to ask you to vote no to this proposed change. Because what would you say to a resident who served the country and wants to gather with other veterans to talk about their time in Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan? You're going to have to say, sorry, you're going to have to pay a fee. Thank you for your service, but you're going to have to pay a fee. Maurice, I see you all the time in Elmwood Park. I know you care deeply about this community. I'm going to ask, what would you say to a resident who said, well, we really wanted to start a coat drive or a food drive for people in Elmwood Park who are food insecure or need a warm coat, but we had to pay $100 to be here. So I'm going to ask you to vote no to this policy tonight. Chris, Mike, I don't understand the reason. I don't know if it's about winning. It's just kind of come out of nowhere. It seems to be very targeted to what a group could say in the future. There's certainly nothing that the group has said that could have been objectionable, at least at the 3 meetings I've been. And I know you were at one, and Pete, you were at one, and Mike, you've been to one. So I just really hope we can focus on the greater good of Elmwood Park and keep this library open to groups, as the existing policy says, that are here to support and better life for people in Elmwood Park. Thank you very much.
I've got Donna Cleason.
Good evening, Donna Cleason, 20 years in Elmwood Park. Oh,
Yes.
20 years, Elmwood Park, Donna Cleason. I want to tell you that I've been it started with that candidate forum, trying to navigate that when we had our last election, and how difficult it was to get an open discussion of candidates who wanted to serve on this library board. Sadly, only the candidates who were challengers did go, and their thoughts were heard, and I thought that was a great thing. And I felt it was a step, and I felt that the next time that there could be another forum, and people would be ready for it, they wouldn't be afraid of it, and then they would get involved, and then the community could hear the different opinions of the people. They could hear what you candidates thought about this library and the direction this library goes. The other thing I wanted to say is, I believe the way you have this policy worded is very short-sighted, and I'm actually going to echo what Julia said, and that is, that means the Garden Club, which runs on a very tight budget, would have to take, $1,200 out of their budget in order to meet in the library, or $1,000 because we don't meet 2 months out of the year. So that really takes a chunk out of a budget of an organization that was created by Peter Silvestri years ago, and to my knowledge has always met in this room. And the Women's Club probably would not have been able to meet. God rest the soul of the Women's Club. But the fact is, I think you might be short-sighted. You might be limiting a lot of access. So again, I urge you to vote this down. Thank you.
Okay. Next we'll be discussing the appeal from the Elmwood Park Advocate. Will the representative from the Elmwood Park Advocate please come forward and offer their appeal of the decision by Director Consiglio to charge the Elmwood Park Advocate for the use of the Florentino Room as per the meeting room policy, and provide your case for this committee to consider their recommendation to the full board.
I'm Kevin Gustola. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Elmwood Park Advocate. I'm state up front that my statements as a journalist and the articles that I have published about the library have been genuinely aimed at procuring a favorable government action, result, or outcome. In particular, I have sought a redress of grievances due to efforts to suppress the Elmwood Park Advocate's access to the library meeting room. A foundational principle from the American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights is that libraries shall make meeting rooms available to groups regardless of the beliefs and affiliations of the group requesting their use or their members. The Elmwood Park Public Library recognizes the importance of this principle by incorporating it into the library's meeting room policy. The policy also indicates that the library's meeting rooms are crucial in upholding the library's mission. Referring to the library's mission statement, it says that the library will seek to empower individuals, enrich lives, and strengthen our community to provide access to information, resources, and lifelong opportunities. What the Elmwood Park Advocate is asking for through this appeal is for library board trustees to interpret the meeting room policy in a manner that supports the library's mission and the principle for meeting room use in the Library Bill of Rights. The Elmwood Park Advocate is a not-for-profit newsletter. It is, as you all know, not a 501c nonprofit organization. But that does not mean that it is operating for a commercial purpose. It is not a for-profit organization or business. We are simply residents committed to building a local news outlet in an era when communities in northern Illinois and other parts of the U.S. are constantly seeing newspapers shut down. Library meeting room policies are generally supposed to be inclusive, not exclusive, requiring the Elmwood Park Advocate and any other similar group of residents to pay $100 for a meeting room when they are using the room for a non-commercial purpose is not standard. Imposing a $100 fee also represents a financial barrier to a library resource and service. Since 2023, no groups or organizations were charged a fee, and this recent interpretation of the policy that only Elmwood Park-based 501c nonprofits and Elmwood Park government agencies get free access is not being advanced to fill a budget gap. So the decision to more aggressively charge fees undermines any promise to equitably allow access to library resources and services for all users. I note that there is a proposal to change the meeting room policy. The revision would basically nullify this appeal. But by proposing a change within the same meeting, I suggest to you that this acknowledges that there are valid grounds to this appeal, and that as written, the policy should be updated if the library is going to further create a financial barrier for resident access to meeting rooms. Charging residents $100 in a retaliatory or impartial manner undercuts the idea that the Elmwood Park Public Library makes meeting rooms available to all. Only well-funded groups will have access. That conflicts with the library's mission to serve as a dynamic hub for education, exploration, and connections for patrons of all ages and backgrounds. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes of the September 2025 BGPP meeting as presented in the packet?
Make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Do I have a motion to recommend to the board to accept or deny the appeal by the Elmwood Park Advocate?
What I would like to do at this point in time, and looking at it and going back and forth, is to review what's been said, and there's been a lot that's been said. But looking at some of the public comments and so forth, what I would like to do is make a motion to suspend the meeting room fee for right now until we can really look at what the story is. And if we have to rewrite it, we have to rewrite it and look at it. But there's some information that I would like. I know Mike has given me some information before on the meeting room fees. I know Kevin has circulated another document that has some more things about the fees and about the $100 that's out there. There's some other stuff that's out there about the groups that have used it, who's been charged and who hasn't. I do know for a fact that back in the day, instead of arguing the point, we went for certain organizations, we went out and actually got the nonprofit status. It's a $50 filing fee, and it's done and over with. You can use the room as often as you want. But I would like to revisit this, study it a little bit more in depth, and take a look at it, and then maybe write something that perhaps makes more sense. Or it could be accepted as it stands. But I would like more time to look into it a little bit more and consult with some other folks and take a look. And that's kind of where I stand on it. And Kevin, if you want to take your appeal right now and withdraw the appeal until it can be looked at a little bit more in depth, I would be okay with that.
If you're suspending the fee, I would withdraw it.
Like I said, not that it's going to be suspended permanently, but until
Temporarily. I understand that.
temporarily, until we can look at and really digest what's been said and take all the different public comments in and take a look at it. I would be willing to do that. I would be willing to entertain a motion for that. You know, I'm not going to put a timetable on it. It might take a month, might take 2, might take 3. But I want to look at something that makes sense for everybody. And I just want to, again, avoid all the, I feel like I'm at a tennis match. It goes back and forth and back and forth. But, you know, I may be standing out on a limb by myself, but I want to take a look at it and see where it goes. I do support the library director. I support the board. But again, I want to take a look at the fees because there seems to be some contradictory information. I know I've heard from a couple of the trustees before and some past trustees that I think at one time even the women's club or, you know, has paid the fee before.
Fee has always been, for $100 has always been.
Right.
In fact, the women's club paid $25 every month to use, just use the-
Again, I just want to
Mr.
take,
Chair, point of order. Is there a motion on the table to do this
I was gonna
discussion?
ask if you want, can I, maybe if you don't
So,
mind,
do you
can I
wanna-
try to communicate that, express that in the form of a motion, what I think you're trying to say?
Yep. that would be my motion.
I think that the motion is to recommend to the board that a moratorium on the fees be implemented immediately, and that the appeal be held in abeyance, until further decision is made about possible changes to the policy. That sums up.
I was going to get to that, but yes. I had a long way of getting around to it, but yeah,
We're
that
gonna
was,
get there, I know, but
that was it.
so if that motion is seconded and voted on, then that can, if it passes, then I think we're done with the appeal hearing. and if it doesn't pass, then we're not. So you ask, I guess.
Do I have a second?
We've been going back and forth, studying, reviewing, listening, reading, and,
You have to second it, then you can have a discussion.
okay,
Point of order.
I'll second.
You can always adjust.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion?
Like I said, we've been going back and forth with this, and I think everyone knows what's on the table. Everyone has read everything about it. I don't know what else, what other research we can do, because everybody researched and everybody brought forward what they have.
Correct, but there are fees. I want to take a look at the fees and see, could they be adjusted? There's others, it still needs to be looked at, in my opinion.
Can I speak? Can I speak?
Go ahead.
Um, we've
I'm,
had
I'm sorry, hold on.
Yeah, I guess.
Trustee
right,
Monahan.
we've had.
He's
Yeah.
not on the committee.
He's not on the
I know.
committee.
Yeah, that's why I
But-
asked
He's
to be.
recognized.
You said yes, correct? Okay. We've had what 4 months, 5 months to do this. It's been going back and forth. This is. I mean, everything is clear. You should really have all of the information you need at this point. You had 4 months to do it.
Yeah.
You can ask the chair.
Yeah, the board
Since
recognizes.
I found out today, somebody must be posting my information on Facebook. I don't go on Facebook and make comments. Let me give you from my perspective how this whole thing started. Somebody complained. I was open to charging no one because no one from the village should have to pay. I agree with the situation. Now, all of a sudden, I get pushed back from another group saying, your policy says this. And Mike, I've talked to you a little bit about it, okay? Nobody should have to pay for the room. My concern is not that. My concern is we know about the mothers, we know about the dads. Those are great programs. But I don't know about everybody else. I'm worried about the security of the building and who's coming in. Anybody could be a community group. That's anybody more than 2 people. So how do I monitor? You could put anything on a reservation. You know, we're going to make candles, whatever. Any of those programs, we're here at the library to assist any mothers, fathers wanting to do anything. I'm concerned about the security end of the building. That's my perspective. Taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for anything. That's why I don't have anybody pay for anything. And we absorb as much as we possibly can. But I constantly get contradicted that people like to put words in my mouth. But that's how I feel. I think the answer to the situation, if we can figure out a way to monitor the people getting reservations, that I feel comfortable that the building is secured, I think we have a solution. But I'm concerned about the safety of the building. That's why there's cameras all around. You know how I'm concerned about the bathrooms being on the 2nd floor. I got to worry about the building because I know as soon as something happens, people are going to come out and be blaming me. This has gone on 3 years. If it's not this, it's going to be something else. But I do believe that nobody should have to pay for the room, without a doubt. But you have to. I want you to understand my perspective. I got pushed back. You guys have been pushing back to me for 36 months, and there's been some positive reactions to it. We've improved a lot of things because of Julia, Jack, and a few other people. And that's how I feel about the whole thing. Anything you've read about, it's not true. And we could go through each entry on it. You shouldn't have to pay. You're paying over $250 to live here to pay for the library. We're not like other libraries. I'm limited in the amount of money. I spent a lot of time in the last 4 months dealing with 40-some emails, multiple FOIAs. We got to move forward. I'm not giving in. I just want you to understand my point and my reason. Just come to my office and ask me. I'll give it to you. Don't read what you're reading online. And I'm not necessarily saying an advocate. I believe in the advocate. I joined an advocate group. I'm part of one because there's good reasons for it. But you have to understand there's 2 sides to everything, and I'm in the middle. I'm going to be a bad guy to somebody. Because I would have stopped this months ago. And Chris knows that, because Chris supported me on it.
Then why didn't you?
Again,
You
Mike,
could have
Because
just.
I was getting so much
I know.
pushback.
Mike,
Look at the pushback I've gotten 3 years
Okay.
from people in this audience.
bottom line is this, okay? I think it needs to be looked at more. Yeah, I had 4 months, but there hasn't been a resolution yet, and I want to take a look at it and go from there. Mike, I understand that, but some of the stuff that's come to light, I want to take a look at it again and go from there. I don't think I'm asking for a lot.
Too much, but that's fine. You have the right to ask for it.
I do have the right to ask for it. And I'm looking at it to try and see what's what with it.
I appreciate you taking a look at it. I'm glad the director thinks that there should not be a fee.
And you know that, Mike.
And I know that too.
I've said that.
I'm a little worried about the censorship thing of being mindful of what they're talking about, but I'm going to give you the good grace and think that's not what you meant. So I appreciate the dropping the fee.
Not at this time. I'm going to move forward with the motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I be recognized?
Yes,
So,
board recognizes trustee Pesco.
yeah, somehow without anybody interviewing me, I'm getting things said about me that nobody's ever asked me about. So my whole thing on this was always let people use the room, but we incur costs when that happens. And I have to be fiscally responsible for this library, right? And I get he's got his take. I'm not putting any pressure on him. Anybody should be able to come here, whether you're the advocate group, whether you want to have ICE come in and do a presentation and stage here. I'm not going to stop you, because if you're part of this community, you have a right to be here to do that. Now, am I going to incur costs? Probably. I'm going to have our security guard here to make sure the room is set up. I've got liability costs if somebody using this room decides they're going to smuggle in alcohol. And now I've got a liability issue. So that fee, although it might be high, a lot of times that's our break-even point on the cost of the staff, keeping on the schedule,